We had just arrived at Golden Nectar Farm in California only the week before that fateful Monday morning, October 9th, 2017. It was about 2 a.m. and there was a loud knock on our door. It was our son John, alerting us that there was a fire and we might have to evacuate. He said for us to get dressed and pack our overnight bag just in case we had to leave. We looked out on our porch and saw the hills in the distance, all along aflame, all lit up by a string of fires. About 4 a.m., our grandson and his wife arrived at the farm. They live about 7 miles away and had been evacuated from their home in Santa Rosa at 1 a.m. It took them 3 hours to make the journey from their home in Santa Rosa to the farm where their parents lived. It was 10 days later before they could even return to their home, which, although untouched by fire, had to be quarantined from entry to keep all the roads open for fire trucks and the 8,000 firefighters who were there from all over the country. The farm actually was saved from fire because the wind changed directions at the last moment when the fire was only 2 miles away. For the last 2 weeks, for at least 2 weeks, the smoke was so heavy that we were advised to wear masks whenever we went outside. I was a volunteer, as you may know, in the office on Monday mornings at our Unitarian Universalist congregation in downtown Santa Rosa, which was actually only blocks from the fire. Needless to say, I was unable to work on that Monday morning, but was asked to go in on Tuesday because the regular volunteer had lost her home to the fire. Kathy went in with me, and as we opened the doors to local members who had been evacuated or had lost their homes so that they had no place to eat or sleep until they could locate themselves. The church provided food and clothing and other necessities. That Tuesday, we sent out a notice to the entire congregation to gather for a community dinner that night so that we could share the many stories that they had. And Kathy was there and helped to serve the 150 people who showed up for the dinner. One of the families in our UU congregation was the Fries family, who lost their home, as you saw in the story this morning and the pictures that Jen Fries wrote for a church service that was done later on, several months after that. One of the things we learned was that Jen and her husband, before the boys were born, had also lost their home in New Orleans to Katrina. I just learned this past week, that our longtime religious education director at the UU there in Santa Rosa is leaving, and Jen Fries was, from a nationwide search, chosen to be our new religious education director starting in July. And the vote was unanimous. And she knows about that I was going to show this, and she was glad that I was going to show this today. More than 160,000 acres, 250 square miles, were burned in our 3-area county, Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino counties. And members of our church live in all 3 of these counties. There were 8,400 structures burned, and 3,000 alone were houses in homes in Santa Rosa. 42 people lost their lives. And over the following week, we telephoned every parishioner and UU friend to see how they were, where they were, what was happening to them, and if there was any way that we could be of help to them. And for months afterwards, a question that was asked wherever you went, whether in a gathering of people, in a store, in a restaurant, at our exercise class, was, where is your home? Which they really meant, where is your home, and was it affected by the fire, and how was it? But what an interesting question. Where is your home? Where is what you call home? When we say home sweet home, what do we mean? Where is it? Since the fire, in asking that question, many conversations have ended up talking about their favorite home or wherever they came from. For example, Kathy and I will often say California is our home because that's where we grew up. Kathy was born in Los Angeles and lived in the suburb near Whittier all until she went to college. Although I was born in the state of Washington and lived in Washington and Oregon until the 4th grade, we moved to California. I call California my home. When we talk further, Kathy will say that her forever home was near La Habra, where her parents built her favorite home and where they lived for several years and sold only when her father developed multiple sclerosis and could no longer negotiate the stairs. She loved that home so much, and she talked about it so often with memories of that home. And after 70 years, when last December I was at a meeting in Hollywood, Kathy took her car and drove to that home to see it and meet the people that were living in it. And interestingly, the man of the house had gone to school in the same school system that Kathy's mother had been the cafeteria supervisor for many years. And they were so happy to see her, and she took her around and she saw her bedroom and all that good stuff. It was a nostalgic afternoon. As an only child, my parents and I lived in so many homes that I learned to call each home my home. And still do. When we visit an area where I lived, we'll go by and I'll say, oh, that was my home. Kathy went through the same school system until college. I was in 8 schools by the 8th grade. And I have lost count of the number of houses, apartments, board and room residences where we all lived. My father was a traveling salesman. And my mother and I would go with him, at least in the summertime. However, I think there's still a deeper question. Where is your home? A favorite book that Kathy and I read together daily, and actually we're on our second reading of it, is a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Going Home, Jesus and Buddha as Brothers. And as an Asian, he writes that the Lunar New Year is considered a time for people to go back to their home or their roots. Well, holidays are often times that we gather with our families. And in a sense, we go back to our roots. It's often an opportunity to practice connecting with each other again and with our family. Sometimes we talk about our ancestors. In a sense, this is our forever or true home. Our true home is something we all want to go back to. We are also aware, though, that there are those among us who don't have a home to talk about or to return to. There are also those who have no good memory of home or family, or may not even know their birth family or ancestors. We have a grandson who was adopted from China, and he was left by whoever on the steps of a hospital after only a few days old. So he'll never know his home. Thich Nhat Hanh describes us as being like a wave in the ocean. Each wave is different. But underneath the wave is the water, which is a part of every wave. I think a unique thing about being in this UU is that there are so many different waves, different religion or non-religion waves. There are Hindu waves, Jewish waves, Catholic waves, Protestant waves, atheist waves, agnostic waves, pagan waves, humanist waves, animist waves, and even some lifelong UU waves. But underneath the different waves is the same water. I believe that everything and everyone around us is really our true or forever home. The air we breathe is our home. The sky that's blue sometimes around here is our home. The rivers, the mountains, the people around us, the trees and the animals are all our home. As a wave, when we look deeply into ourselves, we find that we are made up of all the other waves, and we'll see that we are no longer cut off from everything else around us. Our true or forever home is not something from the past or something we look forward to, but it is always something we experience in the here and the now. But even deeper in the water is the source of the water. Carl Jung believed that at the core of our being, at the source of our water, is goodness and a search for meaning. But that deeper goodness can get corrupted by the different elements in the surface water. Some of us at times feel a sense of alienation. We feel lonely, as if we are cut off from everyone or everything. We are like a wanderer, and no matter how hard we try, we have never been able to reach our true or forever home. Well, I'm here to say that we all have a home. And a practice as you use is always the practice of going home. You see, our true or forever home is everywhere. When I am at the UUCSV, I am home. When I am at UUCSR, I'm home. When I am at Oakhurst Baptist Church in Decatur, Georgia, I'm at home. Or at CBC in Wayne, Pennsylvania, I'm at home. When I am at 415 Acorn Drive, Northumberland, I am home. Or Golden Nectar Farm, I am home. When I'm at Silver Sneakers at the Y in Lewisburg, I'm at home. Or the airport gym in Santa Rosa, I'm at home. When we look deeply enough, we realize that home is everywhere. The trees, the sky is our home. You need to only stop being a wanderer in order to be at home. Listen. Listen. The wonderful sounds here in this building brings us back to our true home. The sound of the bell, the lighting of the candles, the children playing while we drink our coffee or tea or whatever, the fresh air we breathe outside, the trees, the sky, all call us back to our true and forever home. Once we realize that our joy, once we realize that our true and forever home is wherever we are, then we can feel the peace and joy that we really all deserve. Just as the family in the story this morning told their story of Rory and Owen discovered that their true home or forever home was where their family, their kittens, their bedtime stories, and their new life was. So too, our true home, our wave, is within, wherever we are. But we all draw the same water, the source of our being. Amen.